dear parents and my dear friends. Today I would like to explore an interesting topic on how scientists have found various different animals and named them. Now I would like to explore with you some of the mysteries which were around 100 years back.
Imagine that if you go out far away from home and you have seen a really strange animal. It's unlike any animal you have seen before. You don't know what kind of animal that is, but you observe it closely. Now you don't have a camera with you, so you take notes and draw pictures and try to describe in words all the things you notice about it. When you get back home, you describe to your friends what did the animal look like. You see it had spots like a leopard, but it was tall like a camel. Really tall, maybe taller than that, with long legs and a long neck. But your friends just say, "Sure, I bet you were just imagining it. There's no animal that exists like that." You really had seen it though. "No, really," you say. "It was the most amazing animal." Your friends don't believe you. How could you convince them that your animal was real? Now, you might be thinking it should be easy to convince your friends that you really saw this strange animal. You could look for pictures on the internet and just show those to your friends. Today, we have cameras, internet. You can even hop on a plane to travel places in just a few hours. But there was a time when people had not traveled to different places around the world. For example, a few hundred years ago, most people from the continent of Europe had never been to the continent of Africa, and people from Africa had never been to the continent of Europe. When some Europeans eventually traveled from Europe to Africa, they saw animals they weren't familiar with. They really did see a tall animal with spots that they'd never seen before. They called it camelopard because it had long legs and a long neck like a camel, but spots like a leopard. They came back to Europe and described the animal to other people at home, just like the story I told you. It turns out that this camelopard is an animal that I think you're familiar with. What do you think it is? Did you figure out what familiar animal the camelopard is? Maybe you got it. Are you ready for a real photo of one? Here it is. That's right. It's a giraffe. Camelopard is what some people actually used to call giraffe. For people who hadn't seen them before, they thought they looked like a camel with leopard spots. Now it might seem hard to imagine never having seen a giraffe before. Today we live in a world where we can see animals like this in zoos, in books, or on TV shows. So if you never travel or leave your own town, you know about all kinds of different animals that live all over the world. But a long time ago, before people had explored and visited each other's continent, people only knew about animals where they grew up. They never got to see animals that lived far away. Early scientists realized that they could learn a lot by traveling. So they started sailing on ships, exploring places far away from where they grew up, sometimes exploring for years at a time. They found all kinds of new and interesting animals that they hadn't seen them before. It's just they didn't have cameras by drawing them as best as they could and by writing about them. Without a camera to really know what exactly something looked like, some of these scientists thought even better would be to bring back animals themselves. So some of those early scientists started creating collections of animals in museums and in zoos. Some of those scientists started wondering, what kind of animals are all these? And how are these animals related to one another? You actually might have thought about these questions. For example, have you ever thought about this? Dolphins and sharks are both animals that swim in the ocean, and they have some things in common. They kind of look alike in some ways. It's tempting to say they're both fish. But are they the same kind of animals? Scientists got interested in questions like these. Questions about how to group animals based on what kind of animals they are. But how should you group them? People naturally like to group things in order to keep track of them, like grouping the kind of fruits together at the grocery store, or grouping the same kind of books together in the library, tools in the toolbox. Early scientists wanted to do the same things with animals and group them into kinds of animals. But how should they group them? What do you think if you discovered these animals? How would you group them? Now you need to group animals into 4 groups: mammals, reptiles, birds, and animals without bones. Scientists called the group of animals without bones as invertebrates. Now one of the things I hope you noticed today is that scientists don't group animals based on just one characteristic. For example, it's not enough to just know that an animal lays eggs. Many of the animals lay eggs. We need to know more about an animal than just one thing. Instead, scientists looked for patterns. They looked for a bunch of characteristics that a group of animals might have in common. They looked for what an animal looks like on the outside. They looked at what it was like when it's born and what it looks like on the inside too. Sometimes there are animals that don't seem to share all the characteristics of the group that they are in. They don't exactly fit the pattern for that group. Like pangolins. Even though they're mammals, they have parts that look like scales. Every year, scientists keep discovering new animals that they have never seen before. Here are just a few thousand of animals seen first time in recent years. Each time scientists find a new animal, they look at its characteristics to try to figure out which group of animals it fits in.
Maybe we can be a scientist one day who can discover an animal for the very first time. Hope you have fun and stay curious to learn on more topics similar to this innovative learning. Thank you for watching. Please support us to learn together to grow for our next generation. Thank you.